So welcome to today's Midnight training session. Today we'll be going over the administration setup in version 6.3 of Midnight. In the admin menu, this is where you'll go to change, set up, or modify any of your company information, as well as add new pieces of info such as tax rates, employees, login credentials, and security handlers. I won't cover all of the topics within the administration menu today, as some will be better served to be discussed during their respective training sessions, such as print estimating setup and scheduling setup. But I'll go over many of which that don't necessarily pertain to any one specific overly complicated module, so that way you have a basic understanding of what we'll be looking at as we proceed through our training series. In short, what we'll be looking at here is our administrative control of what we see in almost every drop-down menu that exists across the entirety of Midnight, as well as some default values in which what you'll see populated for various areas such as scheduling conveniences, company names, and even logos and pictures. So each time you log in to Midnight, you'll be brought to your home screen in which your widgets and your module control tabs will all be present. Depending on your login credentials, security type, and customization of employee detail visuals, you'll be able to see different aspects of this screen. For instance, you may not see the gear button representing the admin settings, or you may have a different series of widgets on your home screen. These can be controlled within either the security settings or the role rights of a particular security type, or in the case of the widgets, they can be customized in the employee's record, allowing you to tailor what you see on your home screen a bit more to what it is that you're looking to get out of Midnight. What you'll see here at the top are the various modules, be it customer service, including our estimates, orders, and CRM modules. Our purchasing module, which includes the POs and vendors. Our warehouse module, which represents inventory. Job costing, which references job costing and scheduling information. And tools, representing proofing and postage. Additionally, you'll see a few buttons in the upper right. The Release Notes and FAQ button allows you to track and see what notes and details have been published during a new release. The bell icon represents notifications coming from the CRM or customer instances. The calendar and television button represent our two different job board structures. The calendar being an interactive version, and the monitor being a simply display-based version. The paper icon represents our reports module, and of course the gear for the admin settings. If we do enter the admin module, we're brought immediately to our account GLID section, as this is the first in the alphabetical sequence of modules that can be controlled within the admin menu. From here, we'll start at a more important point and work our way through several others. The global settings is probably the most important admin controller within the within the administration module. In here, this is where you would enter information regarding your company that would print out on reports such as invoices and estimates. You can also attach a report logo to your company record, so that way on documentation that prints out company info, a company logo can be associated with it. The logo does dynamically resize itself for display on reports, so you don't have to get it pixel perfect in terms of size. There's also a secondary or system logo. This is what's displayed in Midnight in the DJB, as well as in the proofing module when proofs are sent to a customer for approval. And of course, in the upper left corner of your Midnight page and on the login splash screen when you enter in your username and password to enter Midnight in the first place. You'll notice that I said earlier that you can have these represent your different company information pieces. When I say this is because you can have multiple company accounts within your organizational records. These different company accounts can support their own licensee or address, contact, email, and logo information. Meaning that if you happen to be part of an organization which is made up of several smaller companies, you can build in info that represents each one, pick and choose the appropriate company on any particular job or estimate, and then have the proper address, return information, contact info, and logo displayed as needed. On the right side of the screen, you'll see a series of checkboxes and a blue text button. From the top, you can define your default company. This company, when defaulted, allows you to pick and choose when selecting a customer the first available choice that will be present on any new customer records, which subsequently translates to making sure that the estimates and orders generated for a customer have the correct logo displaying on them, as well as return address info. The accounting integration button, when selected, provides you with the ability to choose your accounting package. Accounting packages in Midnight corresponds to the version of accounting software in which you use, as Midnight itself is not an accounting program. You can extract data out of Midnight, such as your invoices or orders. And in order to properly format what's extracted out of Midnight into an importable file compatible with your software, you can select that program within the list of accounting systems. Fill out your generalized info, such as your accounts receivable, accounts payable, your transaction type if referring to purchase order extraction, and define a few flags for other features if that particular accounting software allows such variety in behavior. After you confirm this, click Submit, and your record will be saved once you click the Save button here. And do be aware that information within your accounting software and Midnight should match character for character. And to be safe, make sure that you also handle your capitalization as appropriately and consistently as possible. The Edit Order Number checkbox allows the feature in which an order can have its order number redefined. This is a toggle on and off feature that needs to be applied on both the admin level here, as well as within the security for a particular role type, such as sales reps or CSRs. If enabled, then within the Details tab of an order, you'll be able to modify the order number. Conveniently, the order numbers in our system will generate themselves based on a sequence. This starting number or sequence number can be modified by us here at Virtual Systems, but if you ever needed to rename your job, whether it be giving it a new number or even a non-alphanumeric character such as a dash or a colon, you could feel free to do that and incorporate both letters, numbers, as well as non-alphanumeric characters into your order numbering system. Depending on whether or not you deduct inventory or use Midnight for inventory tracking will help determine whether or not the auto deduct inventory checkboxes are important for you. If you do use Midnight to handle your inventory, there are 3 different stages in which you can set within an order to have inventory tracked. If you tend or prefer to deduct inventory after the job has been completed, you can make sure that the actual drop date button here is checked. And then within the order screen, once you've populated a shipped date, a pop-up will appear asking you to deduct your inventory by selecting where you're getting it from and how much you're pulling from each location. You could alternatively reference the close date, in which the same logic occurs, but upon placing in a close date rather than a shipped date. Or if you have the version checkbox checked, then within each version of an order, or in the case of versionless jobs, or if you're not using versioning in Midnight, just the order, under the inventory tab, in the upper right of the tab will be displayed a deduct checkbox. When this button is selected, then you can deduct inventory in its entirety from the order itself, rather than having to do it one item at a time. Lot tracking isn't commonly used in Midnight, but it is an additional feature for inventory tracking. This allows you to track different shipments of the same inventory item, where each item could have a different piece cost, could be produced by a different vendor, and can also have a different expiration date. The lot tracking option you select here will determine which inventory will be pulled first or displayed first in drop-down menus, allowing you to pull. You could have it reference first in, first out, last in, first out, or base everything by average of cost. If you don't plan on using lot tracking, simply leave the no lot tracking button checked. The display total services and tax on estimates and orders allows your estimate and order screens to display the total and tax for a particular job. Alternatively, you'd have to look at a report such as an invoice, sales report, or profitability report to see where your actual sales costs are. And display CPM is effectively the same thing, allowing you to display your cost 1,000 on a estimate or order screen located just under the total and tax. We'll be covering the other module controllers within the global settings in future sessions, but there are a couple in which we can look over today. Number one, the system. This checkbox for prompt to save when navigating away from page without saving is simply a safety feature in which Midnight warns you as the user if a change has been made to a web page before allowing you to exit that web page. This is useful as it helps prevent users from closing out of Midnight without saving their work, and by default will always be on unless you choose to turn it off. Alternatively, there's the custom links list. In the custom links, you can pick and choose what appears in this quick links dropdown, which exists on every page in Midnight. You can pick what the link is, what it refers to, whether it be a separate page within Midnight, or perhaps an entirely different URL, such as a connection to Salesforce or QuickBooks support. You can use the link name to determine what it will be called in the dropdown. And the module name and page name allow you to select where exactly you can find it within the system, meaning which module and which page within which module. Finally, the sort order determines in which order each item appears within the list that it respectively populates on. To add new instances, simply fill out the details in the bottom row here, a feature consistent with almost all of the drop-down controllers within Midnight. Click the Save button to commit the record. Modify by clicking the Edit button and changing the details in which you feel are necessary. And if you need to delete the custom link here, just click the X button to remove it entirely. For security purposes, Midnight does allow you to customize or have a customized password as well as a alert system in which you'll be notified if a password needs to be changed, if so, by when. This information can be seen in the password rule zone. Again, it cannot be modified by you as the user. We handle all control of this on our side. If this needs to be updated for any reason, simply let us know. And finally, if you're fairly new to Midnight, while I'll be covering reporting in a future session, it is important to note that Midnight does not store emails and the contents of the emails that are sent out of itself. If you plan on using Midnight to dispatch invoices to clients, we do highly recommend that you create a new server, or at least a new account on one of your email servers, and have a default BCC email address for that email account on your side. When populated here, this allows Midnight to always send an email to that default account. So that way your emails, the recipients, and the contents can be stored on your side entirely, to make sure that if there's an issue, that you will actually have a record of proving that something went out or not. Our next main area that I'll take a look at is our employee list. In order to set up employees, there are a few required fields. The required fields in this case are the security type for that employee, as well as the department and shift. You'll see the department and shift dropdowns over here on the right side. These lists can be controlled by accessing the department or shift submenus within the accounting menu. In the departments, we will have a predetermined template list of available options in for you to utilize, and these can be modified as you need. The shifts are a little bit more complicated. When you assign an employee a shift, it allows them to be associated to job costing records. The shift can be selected or created in here by selecting the Add button, modifying a description or shift name, and filling in the times for that shift. You note that the break times should also be filled in one at a time, and for job costing or utilizing our shop floor system, these breaks are what will be applied whenever a break is taken. After filling out, creating new, or modifying a shift, click the Submit button to commit it, or delete to remove it. And now with these created, we can enter our employees list or create a new employee and fill out our information as needed. The other zone is controlled within our security list. Under the user login and permissions, you'll see an available list of all of your security roles. This list is determined under the security submenu's create role list, in which you can create the different types of security roles that your site will run. And to micromanage what each security role works with or has permissions to do, you can access the create role right area. And in here, after selecting the security role you'd like to modify, pick either the core module, the page level, or the field/control level. Expand down to as far as you feel as though you'd like to modify, and fill out checks in the appropriate column for the particular areas in which you'd like to control. Do note that the read-write allows full control within a particular module. Read-only allows a user to see but not modify data, and no access hides that record entirely. Meaning, for instance, with this warehouse account, if I have no access set, then any user who logs in under the warehouse account will not be able to access our admin menu. Back in the employee screen, what we see here is a list of all of our active employees. This list fills out a bit of sample information for us. The most important thing in this window to be aware of is that what we see in here is our active employees. This list can be modified by selecting unchecked to see any inactive employees that we may have. And also that you can modify the employee records that you see here in the filter by typing in details within the respective column name and watching as our system filters data within that for you. To add a new employee, click the green New Employee button in the upper right. And to modify an employee, you can click their name, which of course brings you into the employee record. In here, the most important things are both the name, first and last, which allows them to be selectable in various areas of Midnight, and the active box, which allows that employee to be visible, period. Other information here, such as contact info, is helpful. If you include a work email, then any emails going out of Midnight will reference this account as the user who sent it. Within the Roles submenu, you can pick and choose what dropdowns or what classification of an employee you have your employee set to. For instance, if the sales rep box here is checked and the CSR box is unchecked, then this means that your employee will only be selectable in the sales dropdowns or sales rep dropdowns, not within the CSRs. The dashboard represents the widgets in which you saw on your homepage. Each user can have a customizable list of widgets, and we have many to choose from. They can be modified in such a way that not only would they be on the site's homepage, but also where they appear within the combination of other widgets. To add from your available widgets to your selected widgets, select a checkbox and click the Add button to push it over. From here, you can modify its location, noting that the upper left option is widget 1, upper right is widget 2, and vice versa. Or click the Remove to remove widget and place it back into the available list. The job tracking zone is where you would go if you wanted to modify job costing record information. Everything to the right for kiosk represents connectivity within our shop floor application and allows users to log their time against particular tasks by clocking in and jobbing into their particular work. The wage rate operates in tandem with this, as if time entries are in the system and they are connected to employees that have a wage rate, you can then determine labor costs and more accurately track profitability. Finally, the User Login and Permissions tab again represents the security controls for a particular employee. You can have your one security rule checked by picking a button. You can also modify security on a secondary level by selecting whether or not the user is a sales rep, and if so, if you'd only like their jobs, their estimates, or their customers to be visible to themselves. And of course, you can create a username and password. Passwords in Midnight do need to be at least 6 characters long and contain one non-alphanumeric character, such as an exclamation point or hyphen, upon creation. This can be modified within our control settings, and those changes can be updated and stored, as well as viewed within the global settings menu. When you create a new employee record, you may wish to check the send email box, as when you do this and then click save and close, you will email the work email address of that employee with an email containing login information for their account. The locked out checkbox will check itself if a user fails to log in after 5 attempts. In order for that user to log back into the system, this locked out checkbox would thus need to be unchecked by an administrator or someone who has access to this module. The reset password button allows you to change your password. After you click it, enter a new password, and then hit save and close to commit that password reset. And finally, if an employee no longer works with you or needs to have their record deactivated for any particular reason, by checking the red button here for deactivate, you will make sure that employee is inactive, unable to log in, and also unable to be selected in places such as on orders, within drop-down menus, or on reports that reference that data. Now, the final areas within the administration menu that I'd like to take a peek at connect to the employees, and that is within the estimates, orders, and reports. We'll take a quick peek just to see where some of those employees could appear. The sales reps and CSRs drop-downs that you'll see in the upper portions of estimates and orders are populated by the available employees with those roles selected. Additionally, if I generate a report out of Midnight and opt to email it, after the email is generated, the from email will default itself to the work email of the user that's logged in. Or if you select an employee from your list of other available CSRs or sales reps, the email will be referenced for that employee's record instead. This doesn't just correspond to reports here within Midnight's estimates and orders, and it does exist within other areas such as with inventory reports, POs and vendors, or just other reports generated out of the reports module. The next area I'd like to take a look at exists under the estimates and orders list. This is one idea represented by several different choices that build up to the proper data, and that is for your tax info. To create and handle taxes, you need to create tax codes, which can be applied to tax jurisdictions. And these tax jurisdictions represent the taxable percentages that are assigned to your customer records as they're created and utilized for estimate orders and other job data. Within the tax codes page, you can create and monitor as well as micromanage each individual tax code within your system. What this would most commonly refer to is the information of, say, your postage tax, sales tax of your city, maybe state tax. There are states like California and Florida which have a fairly complex tax structure, and other states like Texas and Kansas which only have one tax jurisdiction. So depending on where you live, you may have to build this list up by quite a bit or keep it pretty simple. Do make sure that after you set these up, you should make your GLID list here match what your GLID info within QuickBooks or your other accounting software would be, so that when it extracts itself, it goes to the correct account. And also, depending on how you handle taxes, make sure that when you're creating a new record, either the service, postage, or both are considered and applied. So that way taxes apply themselves to the correct information. Again, just like our other menus, you can modify these by checking the Edit button, changing the info in any respectable area, and saving it as soon as you're done to commit those changes. After your tax codes are created, next you'll go into your tax jurisdiction. In tax jurisdictions, you can select or create a new jurisdiction which represents your particular zones. Typically, these refer to either the state, county, or city level tax jurisdictions within your particular areas. And what these do is they allow you to select multiple tax codes and have them consolidate to a complete percentage, which is utilized when determining and calculating tax on your estimates and orders. When an order is imported out of Midnight and into your accounting system, all of the tax codes that are listed here will be recorded on the extracted document for your tax reporting purposes. So do make sure that the GLIDs for your codes are set up correctly, as they are, again, what exactly will be extracted out. Tax exemption is not very common. This function exists so that way you can accommodate any service tax exemptions that your clients may have. These exemptions are defined on a service-by-service basis. An example would be if you have a taxable customer and they're exempt from paying tax on a specific taxable service. To accommodate this, you'll need to create a tax exemption for that service and associate a tax code. After the exemption is created, you then need to associate the tax exemption with your customer in the CRM module. This is a little different than having a customer that's exempt from all taxes. In those cases, you could simply leave the taxable checkbox unchecked in their customer record to mark a customer as non-taxable, or create a tax jurisdiction called exempt, which is made up of no tax codes. That would allow your customer to extract out of Midnight and into your accounting software as being taxed, but not being taxed anything. The next area I'd like to take a look at is the service type list. In order to handle Midnight's service data entry, the services themselves would need to be created. And for those services to be created, they have to have a place to go. The service types here are what you see or classify as the quote-unquote place to go for those services, as they represent the different departments or cost centers that you may refer to within your various estimates and orders. The code and name are what you see on your screen, as well as in most of your reports that reference that info. The sort allows you to determine from left to right where your service types are located. The icon and color icons here represent the information to determine what your data looks like on our scheduling system. And the kiosk hide button makes it so that way when handling job costing for data entry or time entry, that services within that department will not be visible. Those would typically be reserved for service departments such as miscellaneous costs, other sales info, or perhaps discounts or rebates, in which you don't really have any production to associate with. The final area we'll take a look at for today is our reports list. Reports are classified across their various modules as report types. The types can be defined here under the report type objects list. And here's where you'll see your various categories of reports, going by names such as customer, reports, order reports, estimate reports, etc. If they correspond to a specific module, they very likely will already be designated to appear there. But you can create new categories and then show or hide them within your reports module by making sure that the yes option is selected under the show in reports menu. For example, we'll see that order reports, normally which would appear only under orders, are not set to appear within the reports menu, but customer reports are. The main reason for this is because many of our reports that load based on specific visible data, such as order reports referencing the job that you're in, inventory reports representing the item that you're in, etc., will call towards a behind-the-scenes number to make sure that you're loading the correct instance of data. And they're not exactly easy to enter when it comes to being pinged or selected or populated by you as the user, simply because you may not know where to look to acquire that number. Others, like accounting reports, sales reports, their information is pretty generic. In fact, with pretty much all of them, you can do a search for a date, a customer or a group of customers, or other groups of information. And in these cases, you don't need any specific preloaded filter to accommodate for those needs. The reports themselves that you'll see across Midnight, be it invoices and estimates, production reports and scheduling reports, sales, inventory, labels, etc., can all be seen in this page under the report objects. What you'll see in here, I'll go over in greater detail in the future, are a list of all of your active or inactive reports, where they're designed to appear, what name they go by, who modified them most recently, how they display themselves, and if they were emailed to a client, what the attachment name will default itself as. That covers pretty much everything for the administration module. You see there are quite a few fields I did not go over today, such as account GLID, machine departments, standard services, warehouse and inventory management, and user-defined fields. All of these I'll be going over during the respective training module for those particular topics. And by the end of our training series, we'll have gone over just about every one of the different administration elements, as well as gone into detail on how to utilize what you see here and the areas in which they appear. With all that said, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's training session. Let me shut off recording and open up everyone's mic for Q&A.